Welcome to a brief overview of the history, mission, and governance of the Assemblies of God Church. In this course, we will discover the makings of this church denomination, along with the how-tos of working with and in this ministry, concluding with how the churches are governed and maintained through leadership and staff. The history of the church, where it all began. The Pentecostal movement. This movement really took off in the early 1900s and in the early 20th century. There was an outpouring of the Holy Spirit among Christians, including a man named William Seymour, who was a forerunner of the Azusa Street Revival, which happened in 1906. The building is pictured here. He felt called to California and began preaching at a home, which was named Bonnie Berea. So many people showed up to listen to him preach that they sought out another location, which led them to find this building on Azusa Street. That would be their home for the next 3 years. From this revival, hundreds of individuals were filled with the Spirit and went back home to bring the joy of the Lord and the power of the Spirit to others. Individuals, one woman being an example would be Rachel Simlove. They left the revival and they wanted to continue the work of the gospel and the spreading of the news of the Holy Spirit. It's outpouring through this Pentecostal movement to their homes. And from them going back home, the Assemblies of God was a result of that. And I would encourage anyone to look up the story of Rachel Simlove and her story about her vision she had for ministry and the role and the makings of the Assemblies of God from that encounter that she had from this revival. Once she returned home, there was a general council that was held on April 2nd, 1914 in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And from that general council, the Assemblies of God denomination was established. And in the beginning, the heart of this denomination was missions and a vision to grow and spread the gospel locally and globally. And that's what transpired from that year until today. Moving forward from 1914 to today, this Assemblies of God is over 100 years old. And in that time, countless things have happened and changed in the world and the church. Over the course of the late 90s, missions exploded in the Assemblies of God and went across the world. For the Assemblies of God, missions and evangelism go hand in hand, and it's the function and purpose of the church, and has started with and has always been a core value and role and purpose of the church. The Great Commission is the goal and motivation behind any Assemblies of God ministry. Any additions to the church over the years? Programs and ministries were established to honor the values and functions that the church held according to the Gospels. There's been children ministries that have been implemented, like the BGMC ministry, which is Boys and Girls Missionary Challenge. It's a great program for kids to learn what it means to serve and give for others. Speed the Light is another children's young student program, also about evangelism and missions. There's also Chi Alpha, which is a college level ministry. There's countless other ministries that are established and out there to promote and grow leaders and missionaries of the church. The heart of the missions of the Assemblies of God, their strategy for missions is reaching, planting, training, and serving. The goal in missions isn't to replace or substitute aid or service in other countries or communities, but it is to equip the locals of those places to take leadership in ministries established through the missionaries and evangelistic works that are done there. All the church wants to do is provide aid, training, and service to that people group and raise them up to lead and teach their own communities and families. In conclusion, we want to make sure that we have a somewhat understanding of the how-tos of Assemblies of God ministry and the why things might be done a certain way or preferred in some ways. The governance of the church, Assemblies of God is considered a hybrid of a Presbyterian and a congregational church by the way it's governed. This means that there is accountability in every area that the church functions, and the church is able to be decisive and responsive to things in a godly manner and a timely manner. The pastor is the head of the local congregations, but there are systems in place above and below them to hold them accountable, along with the staff and members of the churches. Accountability is a pretty big hot button topic among Assemblies of God. It's neat that their focus is to equip but also hold accountable those that do take on responsibilities. The decisions are made in the church are made by the leaders, staff, and board members. The board members are made up of members and deacons of the church, and that can change periodically depending on your congregation. The congregation is represented and involved in decisions made by the church, which allows the pastor and staff to hear the desires and thoughts of the people more clearly as well. Members and volunteers and staff are anybody and everyone. What you'll find is that throughout the course material, the common factor is accountability. Assemblies of God knows that pastors have a lot on their shoulders and that there are people who can help, and they should be able to help in certain functions like volunteering for kids church or working the sound booth, communicating with new believers, new members, etc. The role of the church board and deacons is to be an aid to the pastor and the congregation. Because the pastor is one person and can't know everything that goes on, they have a board to help communicate the needs, desires, and opinions of the congregation. There are also open meetings like budget meetings, for example, where any member can attend and learn about what's going on with decisions about finances or just choices that need to be made for the building or congregation themselves. Those are open to anybody to learn more about what's going on. And with that, that is a brief overview and study of the Assemblies of God, history, and mission of the Assemblies of God Church.